Jalen Wright, Trey Benson, uh, Marshawn Lloyd.
They did do well.
All your stars aligned. All my dudes went and took dog shits, man.
Yeah, Bucky Irvin fucked you pretty hard.
Dude,
That was
Bucky,
tough. That
Bucky,
was
Bucky,
tough.
dude. Nightcrawler. That's what I
Yeah.
get for giving a guy a cool nickname.
I took a lease out on your heart. I took a lease out on your heart. Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun?
Welcome back, everybody. We are Rough Draft Research. You are the audience, and together we are on a quest for Dynasty Domination. How's it going over there, Daniel?
Man, good. The combine, great.
Yeah, lots of
Domination.
fun.
Ooh, man. It's like I gotta say, I gotta slow pitch this idea for the belt. We have a one round pre-combine draft where the picks are not tradable.
Hmm.
Boom. Would be sweet. That'd be fun. Anyway,
It'd
yeah,
be a
I'm
lot.
doing
That
great,
would be
man.
nuts.
How about you, Christian?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, the combine was a lot of fun. Lots of I feel like there were more like fans or whatever in
Oh
attendance.
my
I don't
God. It
yeah,
was,
it was like an event now. It's like gonna be like the draft.
yeah.
Um, it was big. It was cool, had the 40-yard dash record broken by a guy we're
Mm,
gonna get into a little bit later here, and that was really fun. My boy Jalen Wright crushed it.
of course.
We're not gonna do a full review today.
Oh, let's, I
But
could tell you some disappointing things I saw at the combine.
yeah, let's
Yeah.
do it.
Jim Harbaugh in a Chargers hat.
Mm,
That was a disappointing thing.
that was tough.
The AFC West has been pretty cool for Chiefs fans for a little while.
The
And
new
I saw
threat
that
now.
and I was like, fuck, here we go. Here we go. So,
That's fair. That division got spicy the last 2 years though too, and you guys still won the Super Bowl, so
exactly.
it is what it is. But yeah, so glad you're doing all right though. So
Yeah,
yeah, we're
Christian, how
not
are you?
I'm good. We are, like I said, we're not going to do a full review this week. It's more going to be sprinkled in throughout the tournament when we're going to talk about these guys' combine. So we're not going to hit you with the typical combine review. We know the guys that we wanted to do well and which ones did well and didn't, and that will be reflected when we talk about them. So in lead up to that March Madness bracket, we're just going to keep hitting you with some more profiles of some guys, just kind of trying to hit as many as we can before we get into that tournament. So these names will be familiar to you instead of brand new. So starting off today, I've got a couple of running backs and a receiver to talk about. So I'm going to start with one of the running backs, and it's going to be a name that you guys have probably heard of. I'm going to start with Blake Corum, running back out of Michigan, 5'8", 205. He weighed in at the combine. Had an okay combine. Wasn't spectacular, but wasn't bad. 4.5 on the 40. Did not do one of the jumps. I forget which one now, but so we don't have his burst score for you. 1,000 yards last season, 26 touchdowns on the ground, though. Holy mother of God. He scores a lot. He's got 45 over the past 2 seasons. Just an absolute touchdown machine. Um,
Nice.
he's one of these guys that he understands the position. The vision's there, the patience is there, the utilization of blockers is there. He has a lot of sideways and a lot of bend to his game, a lot more than I was anticipating going into watching the film. He makes these really sharp, aggressive cuts that are nice. They're very like you can almost seeing them coming makes it sound like a negative thing. I don't mean it that way, but like you can see it happen really aggressively every single time he makes a cut. And then he has a really, really nice, like smooth bounce out that's pretty effective. Like he can just kind of boop, boop, like 2 steps onto the right. Here we go. Now he's off to the races. Um, like I was talking about, 45 touchdowns, absolutely elite production over the last 2 seasons. 45 touchdowns, 3,000 yards on the ground over the past 2 seasons as well. 1,400 the year before last, and then so almost 3,000. Sorry, 1,400 and then 1,000 this year. Um, The thing, so there's some stuff with him though. He's not really a
Uh,
home run hitter. I wouldn't say 12, only 12 of his 45 touchdowns have been over the past 2 seasons were over 5 yards.
yeah.
Which is just kind of a crazy flip number there. Um, like I think he has okay bursts and he has good speed. And like a guy I talk about all the time, why he's so good and because he understands the position is Nick Chubb. And he ran a very similar 40 to Blake Corum at 4.52 for Chubb and 4.53 for Corum. But the difference is Chubb is 225 pounds and Blake Corum's 205, and he doesn't have that power. Not that he doesn't have any power. He does have a decent amount of power on him, but it's just not like the Chubb level. And the Chubb burst score was off the charts, which we obviously don't see for Corum. I don't know if it was off the charts, but it was good. It was in that 70th percentile range at least. So to me, Corum's more of like this safe, consistent player. Like he didn't have a PFF grade below 71 in a game that he played the entire season this year. He only had one at the end of the year, but he only had like a few snaps, so I'm not counting that. But I don't know that this level of production is gonna come through in the NFL. Like he's obviously strong and has power. He had 27 reps on the bench, which is the same amount as Joe Alt, the offensive lineman. So like
Wow.
he's obviously strong, but like I don't know that that strength translates always to the field. Like he doesn't throw people around or anything like that. He's just not big enough to. He pushes the pile and he can push through people. He had one touchdown. I remember watching where he ran through two guys, so it's not impossible. I just don't know that his ceiling is high enough for me. Like, okay,
Yeah.
he's 23 years old. I
Shit.
think he's going to
Yeah.
be good. I think he's going to be a
Mm,
running back by committee type person. And I think he could have a really good rookie year if he lands in the right spot, like a spot that needs a running back. But first of all, the franchise free agent or the free agent market for running backs is crazy. We don't know where he's going to land or if he's going to start. I could see it being something like Tyler Algier, though, like where he comes in, has a great rookie year, and then you should bail on him because he might end up kind of falling off the wagon or whatever.
Come on,
Not
man.
that I like Algier as a player; he's a really good player, but he got Bijan, and I don't know that that happens to Corum. Corum has the name value to potentially go earlier in the draft than Tyler Algier did, but Algier was a fourth round pick, if I'm not mistaken, which I don't think that would be unreasonable for somebody like Corum. And just for me personally, I don't know that the ceiling is high enough for me to take him where he's being projected in mock rookie dynasty drafts. Like you're looking at a back of the end round for back of the first round pick or like an early second rounder. I don't know. I don't know that I see the top end ceiling for that to be worth it, in my opinion, especially in a running back class that is considered weak. Why wouldn't you go for the home run swing?
Yeah. I mean, you want to start talking about him?
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. I
Yeah.
guess that was a
Why
question
wouldn't you
for
go
you.
for
Why
the home
wouldn't
run
you go for
swing?
this home run swing instead of Corum? Like, am I off base basically?
Nah, you're not off base. Yeah, I really had Tyler Algier, man. I was like, this is what Tyler Algier would have looked like if he played on a national championship contender instead of BYU and didn't start his college career as a linebacker or whatever. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Algier, what a life you've lived. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe he ends up on the Chargers, but I think
Yeah.
he could really destroy a dynasty career if he went to the Eagles, man. Jason
Mm,
Kelsey's out of there. Maybe the
yeah.
tush push is out of there. You said it. He only had 12 of the 45 touchdowns outside the 10. Is that right?
Or a five outside the
Outside the five.
five.
I did it. I did this, man, because I love to manually count through box scores. Um, of those 45, 29 of them were inside the three. Yeah, not just inside the five, but inside the three. Like he's a goal line monster. So you
Yeah,
need you
absolutely.
need that collection of wide receivers to get it tackled at the 1 yard line that Philadelphia has in order to showcase this guy's true potential. But I get the hesitation, man. He was way outside the top 50 in yards after contact, missed
Hmm.
tackles forced. Elusivity was at 27.4. Like
Mm.
that's crazy. And then yeah, the breakaway yards were only 32%. And it's almost like he was only put out there for the short yardage stuff because he ended up with 75 first downs, which was eighth last year. And like if you look at his usage over the past 2 years, he only had one game without a touchdown, which was a four snap game that wasn't
Hmm.
like he was like testing an injury and didn't play the rest of the year after that. But anyway, he got a carry on 88% of his snaps. So like it, I mean, they were just rolling out a tank, you know.
Hmm.
And in the NFL, you have to be a little more dynamic than that to
Yeah.
truly like make an impact. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. I think
I
if he came out last year or something, like he just stayed in college too long. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it does seem like that. Like now you're looking at a guy who's 23, gonna turn 24 after his first season. We're already halfway through what's considered the shelf life for a running back, and a guy who's got a lot of work on him throughout the past two seasons. Like I think he'll end up being a good productive NFL player. I just don't know that like fantasy wise, I'm w wanting to take him into. I just think he'll end up kind of in a committee where he is this like he may have a Jamal Williams type season where he runs 17 touchdowns because they keep putting him in whenever they get to the five or whatever. But that's not like something you can consistently count on or something I'd want to spend a first round pick on.
For sure not. I'm with you, man. But we'll see. It'll be interesting. And, you know, a lot of these we're getting down to the NFL draft capital, you know. If, maybe if
Yeah.
he ends up with this old college coach, you know, it's possible.
Yeah, I
Anything's
mean,
possible.
there are definitely like I have all those second round picks and for the belt, like I've talked about a few times on the pod. And like there's a world where if he's in a place that he might start year one and then I could snatch him with one of those seconds, I would do that and then try to flip him later because he has the name value. And I think he could crush in a rookie season. Like if they're just like, okay, we just need a guy to come in here and be the guy while we're building this team, like a LA that maybe doesn't want to put in the value into the running back position while they rebuild the wide receiver room and rebuild the defense. They're probably going to have to cut a bunch of guys and stuff. So that's just where I'm at. I think he's a good, like, I think he is a good running back in terms of like understanding the position. He is good.
Yeah,
I just
no,
don't know
he's
that
got
he,
plenty of experience.
yeah, I just don't know that he has the like top tier ceiling that I'd be looking for a guy.
I got you. Feels like a Lance pick, so we'll let Lance handle this one. But I'm going to get into a guy, Devontez Walker,
Okay,
wide receiver out of
nice.
North Carolina.
Mm,
And man, I feel like it's a name that keeps coming up, but he's a Kent State transfer, which just full disclosure, all three of the guys I'm talking about tonight
I
are
noticed that.
in their first year at their new final college home. So that's extremely
Odd.
fun. But yeah, I bring up the Kent State thing out the gate because I had to watch some of that film to see some of the versatility and like diverse skill sets on display because at North Carolina, he got what I'm calling the Diami Brown
Yep.
treatment,
Mm-hmm.
which is wide right all the time, and that's all
Mm-hmm.
you do. And with Kent State, there was a lot more variance, but it all really essentially equaled out to, you know, Des having some great hands and some catch point adjustments that were solid. And I gotta say, I was actually really surprised to see how many times he was underthrown with all the Drake May hype, where he had to really adjust to the ball and end up making those off passes into viable plays. So he gets extra points for that. Um, but really, I mean, he grabbed a lot of shade at the Senior Bowl for not
Mm-hmm.
being able to get separation in the one-on-one drills after being like supposedly like, you know, supposed to be a snappy, quick guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's okay. Normally that would be like a red flag for me and take the interest straight away. But his films had some element that I could not ignore. So I really liked his focus. Like his focus really seemed nice. And what I mean by that was like his awareness of the boundaries impressed me.
Mm-hmm.
He made a lot of like tough catches, but I don't think in all the film that I watched, I saw any college but not NFL like 1 foot catches. Like he was 2 feet in,
Mm,
even on the tough grabs, and I like that. And it was just like supreme focus on high pointing and timing his hands to bring in a ball that, like, there were kind of some tight pockets where the ball would zip past a defender and like he would just snatch it last second with the delayed hands. And that was really nice. So that's what I wanted to see on the film after getting the hype and then seeing what was going on with the combine, because it went really well for him. Um, it
yeah.
took him from being a borderline player to someone I'm pretty intrigued about. So it's like a 4.36 at the 40 and his 98th percentile burst, with a really pretty good size that it's becoming its own little class of, like, he's 6'2", 193. So it's like its own little class of
Mhm.
guys that are pretty serviceable in that size. And man, really, I was glad to see that happen because after watching the film and just kind of the disappointment of the Senior Bowl, I was putting him almost in that like Keon Coleman kind
Mm,
of hope chess level guy. But now I could see him having an impact, for a team with some of those measurables he had. I really get a Marvin Mims kind of vibe
mm.
from his gameplay.
Like a big Marvin Mims.
hmm
Okay.
And he didn't have all of the like the deep A dot, and Marvin Mims had like 20 plus yards per catch. He was closer to 16.8, and that's over his 3 year career. But he only had 104 catches in all 3 years combined, but he did score 19 touchdowns on
Mm,
104. So that
mhm,
gives him a little bit of a bump, and that comes down to, like, being able to pull in those nice balls downfield. But there were some iffy characteristics that came up when I started digging into the stats. Like, he only had 2 missed tackles forced
oof,
all year last
mm,
year. So that was kind of weirded me out. There's only 2.8 yards after the catch per reception. That's a very low number. 8.6% drop rate. It's gotta be kind of worrisome. I did think his route running was decent. There was a lot of like I keep on saying Keon Coleman, but like that kind of vibe where it's like a lot of go balls. But he did show some dynamic
mhm,
route running in there. It just wasn't what he was asked to do, and his production was extremely inconsistent. He had big games that were huge, but the other games were pretty much ghost towns. And the thing that really sucks about that is the targets were there, but he had a 62% catch rate, which just meant he wasn't, capitalizing
mhm.
necessarily on the opportunities. You see how many drops he had. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like he's gonna get some looks just because the tape is good, the catching is good, the focus is good. Like, he plays well. But yeah, not getting the separation kind of makes you worry. But now you see the speed. That's okay, but you want to see a guy at 6'2", 193. You really want to see a guy that can do something with the ball in his hands, and
Mhm.
he really lacks that side of his game. So I don't know, man. I'm tossed up on this guy, but I don't know. Did you see anything I'm missing?
Well, no, I didn't go back as far as I didn't do any Kent State watching, so
Oh,
I probably
Kent
should have done
State,
that
baby.
because I'm with you. My first thing, well, first, my first note was I've been tricked by a North Carolina deep threat before. I'm not letting that shit happen again. So you brought up Diami Brown. That's exactly what I was thinking. This guy's just a bigger Diami Brown. And it was the arsenal of routes, like you're saying, it's a lot of goes and comebacks. Like that's all he did, just on the right side, either run or pretend you're running and then turn around. He's clearly very fast. Obviously, the 4.36 and that size, like 6'2", 193, that's that's a really good size to be that fast with. That's like tall, but a little bit of physicality to you potentially. But like you're saying, 8% drop rate on 168 targets. There's guys with more targets with less of a drop rate. It's a tiny bit higher. It's not like crazy higher. I think a lot of the guys, I'm gonna get into somebody later where I go into drop rates. A lot of them are sitting at like 6 or 7, so it's not like this crazy number higher. But
Mm.
some of them have, and that's for their college career, not this season. So I did the college career, and 168 targets is quite a bit less than a lot of these other guys in terms of how many targets they had for their career. So that is something to watch. Honestly, I get worried of like this MVS type vibe because
Oh,
Marquez,
sure.
yeah, like he came out as a taller, fast guy and then got used that way. But that way, that's just not a viable fantasy guy. You know, like he had big games. He had big games for the Chiefs, helped them win 2 Super Bowls. He had big
Right.
games when he was in Green Bay, but he got cut because he's not consistent. And that's what I worry about with a guy like the Devontez Walker is just that like if he lands on a team that doesn't know how to do anything other than goes and comebacks with him, and that's all they want him for, then you're gonna see about this level of production out of him, about 700-ish yards and 7 touchdowns, maybe, like in a best case scenario. But if he goes onto a team that wants to take those traits and develop them into something more, and like you're saying, maybe did more at Kent State that I'm not aware of. So like
Wasn't like wasn't
that much.
mind blowing, but yeah.
Okay. Well, and maybe he has more to his game than
Right.
what I'm aware of, I guess is what I'm saying. But yeah, I'm not super enthralled with him. Landing spot will be crazy. Like obviously we're before the actual NFL draft, so landing spot is going to be huge for all these guys. Feels redundant to say it, but it is important. But
Oh yeah, at this point, like you can't on a player like this, where like how many we've been doing this for years, like how many promising guys with nice hands and some
and
speed have we
speed and
seen?
size and
And
just
it's like,
yeah.
you know,
And
mm,
yeah, I feel like if he gets in the wrong hands, it could be another one of those where he's just like, oh, occasionally he has like a crazy 70-yard touchdown, because he has the ability, but he doesn't get used in a way that I would want to spend like a second round pick on him necessarily. You never know. We'll see where he goes, see the draft capital, but that's kind of where I'm at on Tez Walker currently.
yes.
I could go to wide receiver, but to be honest, I'm more
Ah,
interested in my wide receiver, so we're going to end on him. So I'm going to hit my other running back here. This is Tyrone Tracy Jr. out of Purdue, running back. Weighed in at 209, 5'11, 4.48 on the 40, so pretty good, but a 93rd percentile burst score, which I love that.
oh yeah.
4.4 yards after contact per attempt and 46 missed tackles forced only on 113
Wow.
carries. So that was pretty good. And you'll maybe know why, because he's a wide receiver convert. He used to
Mm,
be a wide receiver, and honestly, when you watch the tape, it looks like he used to be a wide receiver. The way he runs, he's always looking to like spin or break this move or like make it go longer. Or you know how like Jamar Chase will catch the ball and he's like running upfield, but he's got his eyes forward trying to find like the next way to squeeze through. That's kind of what Tracy does. And it's interesting. You live and die by that because sometimes like it's not going to work. He maybe doesn't take the easy yardage and he goes backwards, whereas he could have gotten 4 yards. Now you're losing two, but he can do it. Obviously, 46 more missed tackles forced is pretty good. And he does run powerfully. Like, he's not like the most powerful guy, and he has good speed. Like, it's not maybe consistent home run speed, but a 4.4 never hurt anybody, especially at the running back position. I think he has really good body control too, and he has a really nice arsenal of moves. And I think that comes from him being a wide receiver and a kick returner as well.
right.
So he has versatility to kind of go all over the field. Um, However, that versatility might be just the thing that screws him over in terms of being a fantasy option for you. Because, like, if he's going to be returning kicks and then he might be the third down guy and he might get used on like random receiving patterns because he has that wide receiver background and he can catch, it just seems like he might be used as like a kind of Swiss Army knife type guy, which those guys are fun and those guys are great and you love them as a fan of your favorite team, but they don't really make good fantasy guys that often because they're more
Sure.
like a couple plays here and there. And even the big exciting plays that they do have don't always necessarily end in touchdowns. It's a 30-yard play, and that's cool. But if it's a 30-yard catch in a PPR league, you're talking about 4 points. You know what I mean? So that's something I worry about with him.
Isn't that
It's
heartbreaking?
yeah. especially for a guy who's already 24. Gonna
Mm,
be 24 as a rookie. So not even like Corum, where he's gonna be 23 all season, then turn 24. Tyrone Tracy Jr. is gonna turn 24 in June. Or maybe he's already 24. I forget. I had somebody that I couldn't find their birth date, and so I had to do that. That was Guerendo. We'll deal
yeah.
with him later. But so Tracy is 24 right now. And so that's when we were talking about Corum already being kind of aged, not aged out, but like on the wrong side of the age in terms of coming in as a starting running back. Tracy has that same problem, only then some. And then you look at his college career, and it's 5 years on the bench and then one decent season. So to me, that's really risky. I mean, he had a great combine. He definitely moved himself up a few people's boards with that. He's definitely athletic. He's definitely got some juice to his game, and he's got some versatility that he could add to an offense. But I don't know that I'm sold on him being a three down guy or like a guy that you can consistently rely on. Am I wrong?
No. No, man. That's really fun, really exciting, obviously athletic, and I think he's going to get some rotation, but I think we're looking at like potentially the next Boston Scott type guy, or like
Okay. Yeah.
whatever. I don't know where you want to go with this, but he'll be somebody's third back that it's like intriguing.
Hmm.
But I mean, we're not really looking at anyone that's about to get crazy. I love the story though. Pretty cool to
Yeah.
switch positions and put on some weight and then have some success for the Boilermakers. But yeah, he's older. He's an older guy. A lot of these guys are, that Walker, I didn't mention, he'll be 23 by the time the season starts up.
Yeah.
So these
And I
guys that
mean,
transfer around, it really slows down the wheels of time.
for sure. And I have heard that like a lot of the age stuff doesn't matter as much because of the COVID. Like we're still coming out of the COVID whatever years. So I'm not exactly sure. I just see people say that. So take that with a grain of salt with the ages, but it's not a great sign.
COVID is making people's calendar age higher than their physical age. I love it. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. No, dude, what excitement. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But I got a guy that's really gonna blow your lid, man. You ready for this?
Let's do it.
Are you ready for Isaac Guerendo?
Yes, I am.
Oh, my goodness, 100,000% on everything. What an exciting combine pop.
Yeah.
My man here. Big dude can move. Coming in at 6 foot, 221, running a 4.33, hitting me with
Woof.
the highest vert, second highest broad jump. It was a tie. But he's doing pretty good. Really kind of blowing people away.
Hmm.
And I don't know, man. The burst score is 98th percentile. The speed score is 100th percentile, which I guess, I mean, he's just put himself up there to be taken out by some crazy guy in 20 years, but we'll see what happens. Um, but yeah, proven production is a conversation we have to have about Guerendo.
Hmm.
He's never had a chance to be the guy.
Hmm.
And 2023 was his first year with the Louisville, the Cardinals. And even on this team, it was his most productive year, better than four combined seasons with Wisconsin, but he was still outtouched by 50 carries and outproduced by 300 yards by the established back, Jawar Jordan for the Cardinals. So I don't know. He's never had a chance to be the guy, but now we know what he can do. In workouts and with that size, there's got to be something more coming our way. Stay tuned, I guess. But still plenty to enjoy. I feel like he had the strong ability to run through contact in the open field, which was nice. When you're fast and big, you
Hmm.
better be able to do that.
Hmm.
Um, and he covered a lot of ground quickly, and not just when striding, but like making cuts and adjustments behind the line of scrimmage. He got where he wanted to go. So I thought that was pretty cool. The vision could use some work. I think Louisville's line, eh, so it's okay. He read blocks pretty well, but like I said, the vision he sometimes ran into defenders or couldn't hit a hole just right. Because what he really liked to do was use the speed, get to the
Mm.
edge, and skirt the sideline. That was his game, and so that's what he was trying to do. There wasn't a ton of like game film out on him. The highlights look great, but that's going to happen with anyone. You
Yeah.
could put lipstick on a pig and blah blah blah. But I watched the Kentucky game. That one was one that was readily available, and a few other games. But I'll call out the Kentucky game because I was surprised to see a guy with that burst score and size really getting shut down on the
Mm.
short yardage attempts, and he got stuffed at the goal line a few times, and but he kind of brought it back together with some nice receiving work in that game.
Mm.
So like again, when you're that fast and you're that big in the open field, you're going to do some great things. It really lent him to be a pretty good wide receiver or a pretty good receiving running back. He did have some good blocking in that game as well. He shoved a D lineman to the ground with
Nice.
a block, and I'm like, okay, obviously this guy can rock somebody. So the game as a runner, up the middle, kind of disappointing, but you got to see what he did have to showcase. So um, I was a little surprised on how easily he was stopped by like average tackling,
Mm.
though. So we'll see what happens. So that combined with the fact that he had 4.1 yards after contact, which is 23rd amongst the running backs. I was like, how is this happening? He's easily getting tackled. He only had 31 missed tackles forced, but he still has the big yards after contact. And I think it really comes from like just when he can break free with that
Mm.
speed and get through like a touch and then he's gone. Um, and that is showcased by half of his yards being on breakaway runs, right? So that's
Mhm.
just kind of his game, and I'm into it. But yeah, I mean, the workload and the efficiency was pretty inconsistent when you're battling with another back that's getting more touches than you.
Mhm.
But the guy's big. I think he uses his size well and changes directions well. And the starts and stops are pretty good. And I don't know. He's kind of nice once he's up and rolling. He's just got to figure out a few more things. I think he's got a lot of potential. He's never really had the chance though to be the guy. I mean, the biggest con for me with this guy is that he was kept off the field for 2 years in Wisconsin by Braylon Allen,
Mhm.
who is a guy who had high hopes, but is kind of not really panning out when it comes toe to toe with the rest of these guys. So
Mhm.
that's kind of unfortunate, but he did have 810 yards on 130 carries for 11 touchdowns this past year. And most of those touchdowns were on like goal line scores. So um, that's nice to see. That Kentucky game wasn't necessarily indicative of his success in that area, but there were plenty of house calls on the TDs too, a lot of long runs. And he's a pretty good dude when it comes to just breaking off some good catches, um, which I thought was, really interesting. He had the 12th highest yards per route run with 1.7 and the fifth best receiver grade amongst running backs, which I didn't see any of that coming, especially only had 22 catches. Um, so I guess he made the most of them. His routes weren't like the sharpest thing I've ever seen, but again, when you have a guy that's 221 with 4.33 speed, you're going to have some good stuff once you get the ball in his hand in space. And one thing that stood out is that last year in Wisconsin, he only had 64 carries,
Mm.
but he had 17 catches. So that pass catching work was part of his game, even when he wasn't a primary back there. So, I mean, let's be real, man. This workout's going to get him an opportunity. It'd be interesting to see what he can do with it. It's definitely cool. I'm not like pushing him up my board too much, but he is on the board now. If I pulled him, at the 212, like the end of the second or something, I would be cool with the living on a prayer. It's like almost not exactly, but like almost how I felt about AJ Dillon, who was like
Mm,
exciting, but not sure. But Dillon obviously had more production in college,
mhm.
so but that's just kind of the excitement level I'm at with him.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean he was a blast to watch. Absolutely a physical specimen as the combine workout proved. And I thought he was pretty efficient. Obviously, like 1,044 all-purpose yards on 154 touches is pretty good. Like that's like you
Mhm.
said, he's not even the starter there, and he's still managing to get 1,000 all-purpose yards and double-digit touchdowns. Um, I think, yeah, like you're saying, he takes off like a rocket. He really does just have that grain breaking speed, but it does seem like a lot of it is just that ability to take something to the house if he gets a hole. Um, Another guy, this was the guy we couldn't find his birthday anywhere, and then
Yeah,
finally got it
yeah.
on Google, and it was June 2000. So we're looking at 24 when he starts. So
Oh, nice
that's
work, dude. I hadn't got that far.
yeah, I couldn't find it on PFF or Player Profiler. So if Wikipedia is right, I don't know. We'll see, but
PFF should
that's
look that up.
you would think. But yeah, so we're looking at another guy who's 24. He sat, like you said, he sat as the backup to Braylon Allen for 4 years and then transferred to Louisville, where he did well when he got the ball. Side speed, everything is there, size and speed. I think draft capital and landing spot are huge for him. It's gonna if somebody really bites and thinks they can build an offense around him and takes him in the third or fourth, okay, maybe here we go. But this was like Izzy Abandakanda we got super excited about because of the
Oh, come
workouts and
on.
then and then ended up going to the Jets. And like I could see a scenario where he gets buried on a depth chart, being a later round running back. I saw an article while doing research for him about Denver taking him late. And I don't know how I'd like him and Javante and McLaughlin all trying to coexist on Sean Payton's offense. So it's things like that that worry me with him. But I mean, like you said, he's gonna get a chance. He's got way too good of size and measurables to not get a chance in the NFL. It's just really gonna matter where he falls to me.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. Feels like he could be useful just about anywhere as long as, yeah, it's not too clogged.
Yeah,
Javante.
100%. All right. Well, let me get into my last guy, and you'll probably have heard this name by now. It's Xavier Worthy, wide receiver out of Texas, setting the new 40 record at 4.21. Pretty impressive. Obviously, crazy speed. Got a good burst too, 96 percentile burst score. He's smaller, 5'11", 165, so that's not an amazing trait to have. And a lot of the time when you have these guys that run the 40, the first question that comes up is, okay, are they a one-trick pony? Is that all they do? And I don't think so with Worthy. I really don't. I think he's a good route runner. I think he could develop into a great route runner. I think his out routes are a particular highlight of his. I don't know if defenders are scared to play the post with the speed or whatever, but he absolutely tore up TCU on outbreaking routes. It was really fun to watch. Like just a small hesitation that like maybe I'll go inside, and now I've got 3 yards of separation outside. He was doing that to them in so many different ways, which was fun to watch to me. They use him out of the backfield a little bit, with like a different way to use his speed. To be honest, when I saw it, it didn't work all that often. But they're trying to use him and trying to use him in different ways. And so I don't know. I think he has a bit more to his game than typical deep threats. He says he did bases his game off Deshaun Jackson, and I think you can really see that. I think
Yeah.
he is a little bit more kind of polished in terms of route running. And maybe I'm just forgetting on Deshaun, so please, Deshaun lovers, don't come after me. But I don't know. I think he has a chance here. I think this is another guy that has a landing spot kind of sticker on him because we've seen guys like this who are so fast um go to places that like don't know how to use it or don't know what to do with it. Um I saw somewhere that he has drop problems and like I don't know, man, maybe like he had 15 drops, which sounds like a lot throughout college, but it was on 335 targets, which is first of all bananas. So that only equates to a 7% drop rate, which if you look at Marvin Harrison Jr., he had 10 drops on 248 targets, so that's 6%. Rome Odunze had 15 drops on 328 targets, so that's right at 7% too. And Malik Neighbors had 15 on 275, so that's just over 7%. So it seems like he's right kind of in line with all these other top tier guys in terms of how often he drops the ball. So I didn't really see that on tape. I just saw people mentioning that, and I'd push back on that a little bit. I don't think he has any more hands problems than like most people coming out of college. The problem I have with him is that like just these small, fast guys are just kind of inherently inconsistent and a little bit of injury risk. You know, they have this huge, massive upside of a guy that can just take the top off the defense and kind of obliterate you. But then also Deshaun Jackson, perfect example, a guy who would come in and be awesome for you for 2 games and then disappear for the rest of the season and then come back and not do anything in a game. And then you bench him and then he has 25 points. Like he's just kind of a frustrating fantasy guy, but could have really good seasons for you. Deshaun Jackson was a great player, and I think Worthy can be a great player too. I think obviously he has the chance that he can get outplayed physically, being the smaller, like 5'11, 165. We have bigger corners coming in the NFL these days, and his worst game of the season was against BYU, and I think that was the issue. They just kept having a plan to always get hands on him, always kind of mess with his rhythm and throw him off. And it worked. There was a play where he literally fell down because when he tried to go across the middle of the field, the safety just kind of stepped in his way and bumped him as he went, and he fell down. Incomplete pass. Multiple drops on getting contacted. So like that is kind of an issue with him. But he lands in the right place that knows how to take advantage of that speed and knows how to use it in a versatile way. I think he's a good player, and I think I think he's in the top 6 to 7-ish of the receivers of this class, to be honest. It's a really deep class, but I think he has a lot of traits that could make him effective. And maybe this is connecting too many easy dots, but he loves Deshaun Jackson. Andy Reid drafted Deshaun Jackson. Mahomes tweeted the little sideways eyes when he broke the 40 record. He's already met with the Chiefs apparently at the combine. Like, to me, if the Chiefs get him, woof. He's a first round dynasty pick, locked and loaded. Like, I really think like that's a team that would be able to use him in a way that you could consistently get points out of him. But if he goes somewhere like the Commanders or maybe the Giants, where
Gross, dude.
I
Don't even say
yeah,
that.
I don't trust them to be able to handle somebody like Worthy, and they would just be like, okay, you're fast, go run fast. And I think he has a lot more to offer than that. So I've said it a lot this episode. Landing spots are pretty big here, and I think I have where I want Worthy to go in Kansas City. My other thing with him, I don't know that he's ever like a wide receiver one, necessarily, just because that type of size, that type of guy needs somebody to kind of help take the pressure off of him. So I don't know that he ever is. I mean, if he's on the Chiefs, who knows? It's Mahomes. He can make anybody great. But honestly, that with Rashee Rice there, that could kind of end up being perfect. But that's my concern with him, is like being a consistent guy. But if he lands somewhere awesome like that, I'm in on him, man. I think he's got more to offer than just a normal, typical 40 record breaking deep threat like John Ross or somebody.
Yes. Yeah, honestly, that was cool that he did that, but I don't know. I mean, watching the film, it doesn't like he obviously is fast,
Mhm.
but he's way more than that when it comes to how he plays the game, right? Like lightning on the field, lightning on the track, apparently. But the thing that I really liked about him was more than the speed, it was the physicality. I
Mm.
thought he was very physical.
Okay.
Like I think I saw like his mental weight is much higher than 165.
Okay.
Like he's not out there playing like a paperclip. He's out there trying to do
Hmm.
everything he can with the opportunities. And it worked out right. He had 7.6 yards after the catch. So
Hmm.
some of that was bullying through a few guys. Um, but yeah, really, honestly, it was his ability to kind of like go from a stop to full sprint,
Hmm.
just like nothing. and the routes were pretty decent too. I think if he had a better deep ball passer, he would have had a much better college career. And yeah, you put him in Kansas City and it's fucking over, man. It's over.
That would
Sorry, I
be a
keep
lot of fun.
swearing, not doing it on purpose.
No,
Keeps
you're
happening.
good. You don't have to apologize for that. Fuck them.
For the families out there watching, yeah, Worthy. I mean, good job, man. That was crazy. Wild,
Yeah,
really.
that was fun. That was a lot of fun. And that was when you could really notice like the fans or whatever in
Oh,
attendance, like because when he broke, everybody went nuts, and it
mm,
felt like an event, and it was cool. It was a cool moment for him, and I really hope like you look at that list of like the top 40 guys, and a lot of times you're like, oh, it's not like that great of a list, really. And I hope
uh,
he can kind of buck that trend, because I'd like this tape a lot.
yeah, yeah. I think he offers another level compared to some of those other fellas. So, um, hell yeah. But if you want to talk about another level, my friend, I've got one for you. I got into Malik Washington.
Hmm.
Yes, my friend, you know about it. This guy is crazy. He's awesome, and I was a huge fan of his. Damn, he's scrappy with the ball in his hands,
Hmm.
man. I love it. Over half his yards were after contact, not after the catch, but after contact, it was 6.4 per catch. That's pretty awesome. He's absolutely willing to break tackles and go for extra yardage. Just a physical guy. He led college receivers with 35 missed tackles forced. That's pretty incredible. I don't want to get into it, but that's like a kind of a decent running back number. No, it's a
Hmm.
little disappointing for a running back, but that's stellar for a wide receiver. It's a whole nother world. So,
Hmm.
um, but yeah, his toughness as a runner. There was one play in particular against North Carolina where he caught the ball at the 11-yard line, and he was like a late read in the play, and the defenders were just thick across the middle, and he broke four tackles on his way into the end zone. It was just like it was crazy. He's just like left shoulder, right shoulder, left shoulder, right shoulder. It would not be stopped, and he got in the end zone. And I was like, oh my goodness, all right, this is what we're doing right now. I'll take it. I'll take it. But man, I gotta tell you, there really was some good versatility. Even though he's a pure slot guy and that comes from the size.
Hmm.
We'll get into it in a second, but there was like a ton of designed catches and jet sweeps and the kind of stuff that would give you the impression that he could wind up being like a gadget
Hmm.
player at the next level. But I really don't know, man. When you get to his down the field work and his route execution, it really invites you to keep the options open. Where this is like a do-it-all kind of slot guy. He could be a traditional receiver or a gadget guy. He really gets foxy a little bit, uh, but but I got to tell you, he's one of those guys where just the work he can do in the kick return game is going to get him on a squad. He's going to
Hmm.
find a way to get opportunity and prove himself. And it's players like that that end up getting like a little higher draft capital than you'd normally expect. Especially when you got a 23-year-old guy that's 5'9" here. It's a little bit of a hesitation, right? He's almost built like a smaller running back, like 5'9", 190.
Hmm.
But I mean, he plays really well. Um, and it's all evidenced in the stats here. But the physicality is 100% on display. He had a 97th percentile burst score, and the second highest receiving grade right after Malik Neighbors. So, I mean, that's nothing to be too sad about with a 92.4. And he had, this is probably my favorite stat. Like, there's so many good things about what he's doing with the ball in his hand and his versatility and just what he does. But he had an 80% catch rate. Like, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Especially when you're looking at most of these guys are between like 60 and 70. So the vert and the bench were the second highest amongst wide receivers. So it was that's I mean that tells you he's explosive. He's got the physical nature. He's a strong, powerful, tough guy. And it was 100% on display because you have to be tough to have a 65% contested catch rate with 11 catches at 5'8" with 16th percentile arm length. You
Mhm.
have to be fighting for the ball. And he did it with incredible success, extremely consistent production. His first game with the Cavaliers of Virginia was his only of all year that was less than 97 yards. So just to have that kind of stellar consistency is pretty impressive. He ended up totaling 1,426 yards, which was greater than four combined years at Northwestern. So that's like the theme of my guys. Like first year in a new place, 1 year better than several previous years.
Mhm.
Just these guys are just taking off like rockets right now. But I mean, I got to rehash it. I love this guy. He is a short yard specialist, man. Like first read ace, crisp with his lines, stops on a dime. He's got solid hands that bring it all together. He turns upfield in a snap and he muscles through contacts with tremendous balance. You see
Mhm.
guys that can power through a tackle, but like the way he just hits and keeps moving, it was the balance that really made him successful. And then his route tree grows pretty well as he climbs into the intermediate areas of the field. He really drops his hips and does a change of direction really well, and it gives him that consistent separation through his routes to really be a juggernaut. But yeah, the thing that lifts it all off is his varied releases and solid footwork at the line of scrimmage. Just start him off with an advantage pretty much every play. So I'm into it, man. This all added up to a guy with the most catches in all of college football last year, with 110, and it was the fourth most yards at that 1,400 number, and he had 9 TDs. So I'm all about it. Pretty excited. Um, this is a name that was kind of like floating out there that we were
Mhm.
wanting to get to eventually, and it's nice that he put himself out there as a hot shot at the combine. Made us circle back and really have to give him some respect. So. Love it, man. He's going to be a monster slot guy, and I'm into it.
I'm 100% with you. This was some of the most fun tape I watched, maybe even out of the guys we watched today. Him and Worthy would probably be the two. Um, but just like you're saying, man, like he could absolutely dominate the slot in the NFL. He just does the dirty work that needs to happen down there. Like you're saying, completely physical, not afraid of contact, gonna get in there. And he ran a 4.47, which is good, really good. But to me, what makes that more impressive is okay, maybe it's not like the craziest top end speed ever, but he gets to that top end speed instantly. Like
Mhm.
just turns around and is gone. And it just gives him this advantage. He can just move so quickly. And then like you're talking about the consistency, he had 138 targets this past year, only three drops. Like 80% catch rate. I didn't know that. That's crazy. That's a fantastic number. And you know what I like out of slot guys coming out of college? I like when they got wide receiver one work in college. And then, yes, because of his size, he is going to have to move to the slot in the NFL. There's just no way about it. But he's
Right.
used to getting that amount of work. He had 138 targets this season. Like you said, he led the lead or the nation in catches this season. He went from transferring from Northwestern, his yards per route run were 1.8. They
Mhm.
jumped all the way to 3.15 in his first year with Virginia. So they knew how to use him. They immediately saw that this guy could be an absolute workhorse in the receiving game. And dude, I think there's potential spice here. This is to me like potential Amon Ra spice levels.
Yes.
Like if he ends up on the same right offense with a team that just wants to feed him the ball, he is going to make them look smart because he's going to get 100 catches every single year if you give him the opportunity to do it. I'm with you 100%. Like he's sneaking up into that top wide receiver class in a class That is so strong already. I don't know where I'd rank him yet. We're gonna have to figure that out as we do
We
the.
we really should figure that out.
But I'm with you, man. Like I think he has a lot of potential. It's again, I've said it and I'll say it and I'll keep saying it and I'll say it all the way through the bracket. Landing spot obviously is huge. If he ends up somewhere that I don't trust them to be able to use him, then okay, that's gonna hurt him. But like this one's gonna be harder to ruin the landing spot because he's just such a ball player. Like he's just
Yeah,
such a football player. It's
he's a
it's
monster, man.
yeah, yeah, absolutely fun to watch. So I'm glad we're on the same page here. He was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Got to put him in my pocket, man.
There you go. Hopefully save him for later. Well, all right. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. So we will be hitting you back next week. Are we starting the bracket next week or is that later on? I forget.
Sweet sassy molassie. Hell yeah, we're starting the bracket, baby.
Okay, so there it is. We've been talking about it for so long, and now we are here. No more profiles. It is time for combat. 64 enter. Only one can leave as the Rough Draft Research 2024 Dynasty Rookie Champion.
That's right.
Begin that journey with us next week. But until then, we've been Rough Draft Research. You've been the audience. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Until next time. Peace out.
I took